there should be no reason that anybody as a coach is wearing jeans when you are coaching. I'm sorry. It is the biggest for me. I get it. You're cold. It's cold out. Girls or anybody, players, if you're listening, wives, if you're listening, or if you're a coach, your husband, your wife is the coach and you're the husband listening, please buy them their yoga pants or please buy them sweatpants, which still would look tremendously better than you showing up coaching a team in your blue denim jeans that looks like you're dressed ready to go to the bar.
At the field, in your car, or on the couch, get your fast pitch info from the coach's mouth. Welcome to the From the Coach's Mouth podcast with your hosts, Jay Bolden and Ken Kraus.
Hello, everyone. Jay and Ken back again for another episode of the From the Coach's Mouth podcast. And for our Wisconsin listeners, I want to give you a healthy and hearty moo.
Okay. I'm not sure what that's about, but you got to have to give us some details on that or something.
Oh, it's just what everybody does when they're in Wisconsin. You know, it is the dairy state. So when we cross the cheddar curtain, you see the cows out there. I think it's a law that you're supposed to yell moo at them.
But, I did not know that.
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yes. Although it's okay because I did check with the Gehrings, with Abby and her daughter, Avery. They're from Wisconsin, and they said it would be okay to say that. I made sure I wasn't going to get in trouble for, being intolerant. I'm
glad that you sought clearance on that from them, Ken. I think that's super important that you get clearance on that before you just come on this podcast mooing. So now that we know that, I think people will understand for sure. So
yep.
How was your week been? Your weekend been?
It's been great. It was nice. On Halloween, we had two of the grandchildren over. They went out trick-or-treating in the area. The weather was beautiful. Today, I met up with a buddy of mine that I worked with at two different places. In fact, he was responsible for me getting into the second one, Tim Boyven. So, Tim, if you're listening, I don't know why you would be, but if you're listening, hello. Nice to see him, and met his mom, Peg, 94 years old and still getting around, still causing good trouble.
And where did you guys meet up? I think you told me where you were meeting.
The Old Warsaw Buffet down in Broadview.
Oh, okay.
So
all right.
I was a little worried because even though I have Polish heritage and was brought up with that, never been a big fan of especially Polish sausage, but Polish food in general. However, they had pretty wide ranging thing. I did the thing you're not supposed to do at a buffet, which is start with a salad. But one thing they did have there that I really enjoyed from my childhood was potato pancakes. I don't think I've had those in a very long time. So, I had that, a little pierogi, some beef, and then, like I say, a nice big salad and stuff. And, of course, a little klatchki for dessert.
Absolutely.
So it was all good. How about you? How's your week been?
It's a busy week. It was great, though. Halloween was awesome. The kids, mine are still somewhat young, so they're still into it. We did that. Yeah, they had a good time. And like you said, the weather was great. We had a decent amount of trick-or-treaters, and it's fun. So, yeah, that was really good. And then today I got up early, and I went to the LP4U tournament in Peoria and worked the camp there today with some coaches. I did the pitching portion. I had Mallory Winters, who's the assistant coach at Butler. She was doing the catching portion with the catchers. So I always try to go into those things with trying to give the kids that come to that some feedback on their mechanics. I feel like a lot of times you're paying for these camps and they go there and it's like they really don't get anything out of there. And so I would bring them over and I talked to them a little bit. We worked on a little bit of some drive mechanics, did a lot of split and gets, a lot of, jump backs and goes, trying to talk about getting out, not getting open, those things. So it was overall was good. And then I, watched a game or two and then headed back home. So it was was definitely a busy week, and I'm tired, but definitely great to get out there. And again, I love the networking. So talking to coaches, talking to the players and other travel ball coaches is super important. So yeah, it was a good weekend. So.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear it. What was the state of the pitching mechanics that you were seeing?
Ken, you and I talk about this all the time, and I was actually talking to Mallory a little bit about this. And it's, the first question I ask a lot of these kids is pretty simple: is that, how many of you actually watch college softball, right? Like, and all of them raise their hand, and I'm like, okay, you're here, you're in the pitching portion, you're doing the pitching stuff here. Who's your favorite pitcher? Name me one of the pitchers. Right. And so right then and there, they're kind of like, oh, they're racing. And I'm like, well, if you have somebody, so finally they started putting out people, Rachel Garcia was one. Jordy Ball was one. You had some others in the mix there too. Najee, of course. Right. And I'm like, okay, now have any of you actually taken time to actually take your phone, screen record their mechanics during the pitch, or watching the slow motion releases during the Women's College World Series? I'm like, there's some similarities and some things that are super important that you need to be paying attention to, and are your mechanics aligning to that? Like, I know it doesn't have to be, and I tell them, like, we're all going to have different things. We're going to move differently. We're going to have different profiles and all that, but there are some things that are really close to being absolutes that we need to make sure you're doing. And Ken, some of them weren't even close to that. And I'm trying to explain to them, like, this is what we're at. So this is where we're at and why. And so, there was, and I take that too. There were some really good ones there too that had really good posture. Drive mechanics were good, but there's still a gap. I can't believe it, Ken, that I'm saying this, but I'm still seeing hello elbow in 2025, and a lot of leaning forward and snapping the arm up. And most of the kids that were at this camp are basically, it's 15, there were some 14s, but 14, 16s and 18s. And I'm like, how are we still doing this at this time and era of pitching when we have slow motion video on our phones where we can break things down to see what's really happening or not? So again, a lot of that was more really focusing on drive mechanics. And I went around and asked them, I said, what are some things? I'm like, you're all taking lessons. So what are your travel ball coaches and what are your pitching coaches telling you have to work on? If there's something I can give you and you take away from here today, then I'll feel like as I've given you your money's worth of this camp. And so I think that was at least what I try to do. So, and I thought it went pretty well. I definitely thought it went pretty well, but it's very shocking to me that we're still seeing things like hello elbow when we're just at a time where we can slow things down and really see what's happening, so,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I get a new kid in, the first thing I do is I evaluate where she is, and then I will talk to her and her parent or, who's ever catching for her kind of about what I see. I'll shoot a video, show them what they're doing, but I ask them what they've been taught and say, here, tell me if you were the instructor and I was a student, tell me how to pitch. And if they can't really do that, then I'll say, okay, well, what do you want to do at this point in the pitch? What are we trying to do here? It's amazing how many of them still come in and they have, they'll do the wrist flips up close. They're 5 feet away and they're just flipping their wrist up. And then
saw a lot of that today.
Yeah. And then they move back to, like a T drill where they put their arms out, straight out to the sides, like they're making the letter T with the ball facing down and they're pushing that through. But then when you see them actually pitch, their bodies are either doing pretty much internal rotation mechanics or they're trying to, and it's just been coached out of them. And I can sit there and see this and show them that here's what you're trying to do. This is a good thing. In fact, one of the things I often tell them is I have good news and bad news for you. The bad news is you're not doing any of the things that you're trying to do. The good news is you're not doing any of the things you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So the body needs to move properly. The body knows how to move. And if you just allow it to move the way it's supposed to, it's actually not that hard to get good pitching mechanics.
Yeah. I'll say another thing that I saw a lot too, Ken, is the arm slot to me is something that's super important. I did see a lot of arms far away from the body today, right? Like, again, when I'm looking at mechanics of Jordy Ball or we're looking at Najee, I'm seeing the arm close to the hip. I'm seeing the arm stabilize. I'm seeing a lot of forward effort of shoulder pulling towards the catcher. I don't see a lot of that in Jordy. I actually pulled up a video of Jordy that I slow-moed like last year, and I'm like, where is she at? Look at where she's at release. How many of you are close to this, right? And so a lot of just getting the arm through. And I'm working on getting somebody to come on our podcast here where I want them to talk, and you and I have talked about this thoracic outlet syndrome, and I want to get into why brush is something that really I feel, and I think you feel the same way, alleviates some of that stress on that shoulder and those tendons through and ligaments through the arm, instead of the arm just being fluid with no deceleration. And so I'm trying to work on somebody that's going to come in and not necessarily talk about the correlation, if there's a correlation between those two, but at least what brush, having that deceleration of the upper arm does to alleviate stress on the shoulder and in the forearm as well too. So something I'm working on. But I saw a lot of arms away from bodies today where they're just pushing the ball through the release. But again, I think that's where's that. One today was really shocking to me. We're talking about rise balls, Ken, and I asked the question. I said, so what kind of spin are we trying to get on a rise ball? And one kid said corkscrew, and I was like, oh boy, no.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And again, I'm not knocking the kid. That's just what someone's teaching her, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, what we're really trying to get is backspin on the ball. And so I'm trying to explain to them like where the bullet spin comes from and how you get a bullet spin and how we're trying to avoid getting a bullet spin and getting some backspin, even if it's on some kind of tilted axis, but getting backspin, that's going to be better than a ball that's going to just come at you as a bullet. And so that was a conversation that we had. So we tried to talk a little bit about spins. So I tried to give them as much information as I could. They're only there for 30 minutes, 40 minutes tops. And, so it's hard to do that. So I really just tried. That's why I brought them over and talked to them first. Like, hey, what are your instructors telling you need to work on? So overall, I felt it was pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's important. Just try to give them an idea and explain why, because I'm sure a lot of times when they're being told to throw their rise ball with a corkscrew spin, nobody's ever said why they should do that. They just tell them to do it. And I always try to, encourage the kids to be curious, ask questions.
Yes.
I know that some coaches will react negatively to a question because they think you're challenging them, but I personally love questions, and I think you do too. Because I want that kid engaged. I want her to understand what we're trying to do, not just be a robot, not, do something because I said to do it, because, I could be an idiot. In fact, I am many times.
And but, so yeah. Well, we all are to some degree, right? And I'll say this one thing that really kind of like, I'm going to give some advice. If you're a parent listening or you are a player listening and the coaches bring you over at the end of their segment, okay, your session, whatever you want to call it. And I'm talking about when you're at a college camp and they go, okay, any questions or comments? And you don't ask anything. To me, that tells me right there, you may have not or probably didn't listen to anything. And you're just listening to do everything I tell you to do to please me. That's not what I'm looking for. Like you said, I want you to be curious. I don't care if you ask me what I had for breakfast. Engage in conversation, because you're going to have to do that eventually. Right. And I think, ask about a certain drill, or ask about why we want backspin on a rise ball. Ask about why we don't want forward effort with our shoulder. Ask about why we need to have our body in the proper position to launch. Those things. So a lot of things is just ask any questions. And so we only had one group today, and I think we did 6 groups, Ken, and I only had one group that asked questions, and they were great questions that they asked. So it was pretty good. So if you're listening, ask questions. It could be about the coaches, when the coach started coaching, why they got into coaching. Anything you can ask to create conversation, those coaches are going to remember you more than you just shaking your head, no, you have no questions, or everything's good and you're excited to get to your next station. So hopefully, people are listening to that.
Yeah, and I'll second that. And I will tell you that, when I was younger, I often felt like, I don't want to ask a question because I don't want to feel like I'm stupid, or, have people think that I'm stupid. So I would just kind of nod my head along and wouldn't ask those questions. When I finally got over that, oh gosh, it was so freeing. You feel so much better. And I just stopped thinking like that. And then somebody said something, and in my day job career, I talked to people in the technology world about very complex technologies and across a variety of industries. The last 7 or so years was at Amendola Communications, which was all healthcare. And so, there was a lot of stuff there. Some really, really smart people I was talking to about topics I knew nothing about. And they said something, I would make them explain it. Nobody ever said a word about, me being stupid or that's a stupid question or anything. They were thrilled to be able to expand on something like that. Now, every now and then they'd use a phrase that I'd be like, oh, I'll just look that up later. I don't want to interrupt their flow. But, if you're in a group, and I've heard this before, and I think that this is very important for kids to remember as well. If you have a question, don't be afraid to ask it, because I guarantee at least one other person in that group has the same question and wants to know the answer and is afraid to ask too. But you get in there and you be the kid who's asking questions, especially in a coaching situation. If you've got a halfway decent coach, you're going to quickly become their favorite because they know that you're engaged and you're trying to get better.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I think being curious about things is super important. And again, I feel, like you said, I don't really feel that there are any stupid questions, right?
Right.
It's just to help you understand better or maybe to do it. And again, there's a lot of different ways to do things, as we know, right? And so that's why I tell them, like, listen, I'm just telling you my experiences, what has worked for me, worked with me in the bullpens at St. Xavier when I was at Loyola, and works with my kids that I have that take lessons from me. So I'm just giving you my feedback from what I have, right? If you find a different way to do that, then that's great. But ask questions. And the other thing is try new things.
Right.
You don't have to like it. You don't have to end up doing it. But if you try it, it might be something that actually helps you, right? And you can then move forward from there. So I think that was important. So overall, it was good. And it was good to watch some games play, see them compete after that a little bit too. So it was good. And the LP for you, Dave Betcher, does a great job with his tournaments. There was a lot of coaches there. DePaul was there. Butler was there. Lewis was there. I worked with Sarah Willis, who's the head coach at Bradley. Joe Kinsella at Lake Forest was there. Mallory Winters from Butler was there. There were other coaches from other colleges there. So it was a great and well-attended actual camp for these kids to get in front of coaches from D1 to D2 and NAIA and even junior college. So take advantage of those camps it gives you a big bang for your buck. And, eventually as they get older or start getting into that recruitment phase, then you can go to your individual camps of the schools that are interested in you and vice versa. So, but take advantage from these because you're learning. So, and again, it's a way to learn how to be coachable as well too. So
yeah,
it was good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So I know we have a topic for today that we wanted to get into, and that's the top 10 coach don'ts.
Yes.
Things coaches shouldn't do or say, or things like that. Jay, that was your idea. So I think we're going to have you kick it off. What's your number one or your first? I shouldn't say number one, but what's your first coach don't?
So for me, I'm going to start from the lowest and then work my way up to the biggest no.
Okay, mine are just going to be random.
Okay. All right. So the first coach no for me is that you should not. Well, I'm going to start from the bottom. Again, these could be more random, but you should not be degrading or screaming at a player right after a play happened, or period in general. Right? It's a coachable moment. It's a teachable moment. But bring them off to the side pull them off to the side after the play is over. Do not degrade a player in front of their team or in front of their parents. It is the number one thing that you will lose a player who will not play hard for you probably the rest of their time. So that's my first one.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's an important thing. And I would add on to that, not to pull, if a kid makes an error out on the field, don't pull her off the field as a punishment. You can talk about standards all you want, but all you're really going to do is you're just going to make those kids play scared. Kids who play scared don't get better.
Agreed.
All right. So
what about yours? One of yours.
Okay. Here's one of mine. And this is, and again, I'll tell you a lot of these coach don'ts. This is not me standing on my pedestal talking down to all of you. This is stuff that I have done before and learned the hard way not to do it. So this one is hanging your head or just having kind of negative body language, especially when something goes wrong. I actually learned that in a coaching class. It was a general class on how to coach. They talked about it. They showed it. They showed a coach. Just something goes wrong, and then the head drops, and the whole team reacts to it. And I was like, gosh, yes, I do that all the time. So I had to work at it. Just like players work at their skills, I had to work at learning not to do that and to be, very, just very calm, very straightforward. Okay, we've got this, everything is cool. And it actually ended up paying off. I'll just tell a quick story. We were at, I think it was it NSA Nationals or World Series or whatever they call it. Our team, we were in a very, very tense game. It was tied up. We did, I think, 4 international tiebreakers and ended up winning, which was nice. Afterwards, a couple of the parents came up to me and said, "How did you stay so calm during that?" So we were all pacing up and down the sidelines, going crazy. And we look over at you and you're just, just cool as a cucumber. And I said, well, I learned to do that. I worked at it. But, if I'm panicking, if I'm nervous, if I'm pacing back and forth in the dugout, that's just going to affect the team. And I know it's going to affect the team. So I, made sure that I kept myself calm, keep the players calm, keep them focused on the job they had to do. It's just softball. And we ended up winning that game and advancing.
Nice job, Ken. Way to stay cool. Calm, cool, and collect. Not to change your coach's style.
Yeah. No matter how you're feeling inside. How about you? Did you ever suffer from that, or were you always good about not showing your emotions?
No. Probably too much, even still now a little bit, I think. And sometimes I have to remind myself. I have a story real quick on top of that one too. I remember probably in I'm trying to think here, 2013-ish, playing for a regional championship and was way too aggressive, tried to make too many things happen, getting runners thrown out off the bases 100 times, right? And at the end of the game, we lost by a run. And I'm like, you know what? I sat my team down, it was for regional championship, and I said, you know what? Today I lost you this game. I did. I took too many chances. I took the bat out of your hands way too many times. So fast forward a year from there, we're playing the same team. We played them earlier in the year. I was way too aggressive again. And I walked out of the car. My wife and I were going there. And she's like, "Are you nervous?" I said, "Nope. You know what? Today, I'm just going to let this unfold. I'm going to just stay calm. I'm going to let it come out. I'm not going to run us out of this game. I'm going to let my kids win this game for themselves." And sure enough, I didn't run us out of the game. They moved runners over. We had to play a little small ball. We ended up winning, I think, 2-1. And that all happened because I didn't get in their way. And I think that's a huge thing. Sometimes as coaches, we want to be in control of the game, and we're not in control of the game. The players are. So sometimes we need to let that just unfold instead of trying to dictate every little thing that happens. And I did that. And I learned that the hard way. That's a long time ago, Ken. That's, over 10 years ago. And I learned that. And ever since I've really kind of taken a step back and said, let's just let this play out. I always had a really good assistant coach, and I talk about him a lot. I've known the guy, coached his daughter. He's coming up on 70 years old here in May, and he's still giving lessons, catcher lessons, stuff like that. And he was always he was the salt and I was the pepper. And there'd be times I'd start getting all fired up, like, "God, I can't believe it." And he'd look at me, he goes, hey man, they're 14.
Yeah.
And I'd look at him and I go, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And so he would pull me back off that ledge. And I think you need to have somebody on your staff like that really does that, because it's easy to get emotional in this game because it's a roller coaster, So yeah, definitely same thing like you, Ken. I was a little too crazy, and I've learned to scale it back and let things just kind of happen.
Yeah. And, it's funny when you talk about running teams out of games. I would tend to be aggressive like that too. And every now and then I get a runner thrown out at home, which is a big no-no.
Yep.
And I think I've told this story before, but, at the end of the season when we would be playing a friendly during the week, we had a tradition on my younger daughter's team where we'd let the kids coach themselves. My assistant coaches and I, we would all sit in the stands. We'd jaw with the parents, have a good time. We were there in case somebody got injured, but basically it was, the team gets to run the show. They coached the bases, they made the lineup, they did everything with it. So we're watching one of those games, and my daughter Kim is coaching third base. And we had a runner on second base. Ball gets hit into the outfield, and she's waving her around to go home. And you can just see what's going to unfold. Sure enough, Kushali gets thrown out at the plate, and I just turned to everybody, and she's a chip off the old block. So I was never prouder of my daughter.
That's great. That's great. All right, so let me go with another one that I have here of the coaches' don'ts.
Okay.
This one for me here is, I think, a big one, and that is do not talk to other players or other parents about someone else's kid.
Yeah.
If you are a coach and you have friends, your daughter's on the team, do not talk to any other player or any other parent about anybody else's kid except their own kid. That is a big no-no if you are doing that. You are just stirring the pot, causing drama, regardless of whether or not that kid is good or bad. That's not for you to say to anybody else. And I would tell you, like, if your staff has kids that are on the team, then keep that to yourself as well, too, honestly, because I feel like you're just stirring the pot, right? And again, remember, kids are developing at different ages and they bloom at different ages, but you saying stuff about another kid to another kid or to someone else's parent is a big no.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's important for coaches to remember that no matter how it might feel, they're not, these are not your friends. These are the people that you are working for. You're working for all of those parents and for all of those kids. If you need a friend, get a dog, find a coaching circle. And, you can talk all you want about this player or that player to your coach friends, but, that are not a part of the team, or someone else, or your coworkers if you've got a day job. But, yeah, talking about somebody to someone else on the team, yeah, you're just asking for trouble. And there's enough of that goes on in the stands, and there's enough of that goes on behind your back that you're not supposed to know about. There's no reason for you to encourage that and to try to stir up more of it.
Yep. What about you, Ken? What's your next one?
Okay, so this one is fairly specific. This is when you have a pitcher who's having a little bit of trouble. The worst thing you can do is yell, "Just throw strikes." Slow it down. Just throw strikes. If that's what you want, take that pitcher who's working hard and trying to develop herself and become a real pitcher. Take her out of there. Just get a volunteer from one of the other players who's not a pitcher and tell her just chuck that ball in there and throw strikes. Let them hit it. Everybody will be better off for it.
And if you are a coach who does that, why don't you go to the mound and see how well you throw strikes if it's so easy?
Yeah.
Right. People they think it. There's a lot of kids that make it look really easy. Right, Ken?
Yes.
But it's not easy at all. Honestly, I compare it to being an NFL quarterback. Right. You got a great pitcher, you're going to have a really great team. Right. You got a bad pitcher, it's going to be a struggle. And they're out there working as hard as they can to get as good as they can. So let them get out there and let them do it. You yelling throw strikes at somebody does not help anything at all, except put pressure on that kid to now not even use the proper mechanics, which is what we all don't want. So, amen. That's a beautiful one, Ken. That one slipped off my list, so I'm gonna have to add that onto my list just now. I'm putting over here. So,
okay, good. Well, and I of course, I always have a story, so I have a story for that one too. But it's based on what you were saying about how it's a lot harder than it looks. And, yes, some kids make it look easy. And I will oftentimes tell the kids as I'm working on mechanics with them and trying to get them to be better, I will tell them, I want you to get to the point that 2 years from now, everybody says, well, of course she's good. She's just a natural. So they're not here right now. They don't see how tough a time you're having and how much work you're putting in to get there. We want you to look like this is something you just walked up, you picked up a ball one day and started chucking it in there for strikes and moving it around and doing all of that. So what I would do is this is when I was teaching, I would do some clinics during the winter. And, there'd be like 6 kids at a time. Some program would hire me to teach a bunch of their kids to pitch. And so, we would do, say, either the first or the second week that we were doing this, we'd get to the half-hour break, and I'd say, okay, here, I need a parent volunteer. And I'd always look for some big, strong guy. Guy looked like he was fairly athletic, like he worked out and was in good shape. I would say, okay, here, I just want to give you guys an idea of, kind of how all of this works. So, here, come on in here. I'm going to just teach you how to do some simple stuff for the pitching and, just kind of make it look like, oh, this is going to be fun. This will be easy. So I'd have the guy doing it, and inevitably they were stiff, and they were having trouble. And I'd start out very calmly, going, oh, okay, here, we would just start from the K position. No, you don't want to turn that ball backwards. You want to kind of keep your hand like this. You want your arm to come down this way. And, I'd be very patient with them, and they'd try it, and they could go, and, they'd be having trouble. And then they start throwing the ball into the dirt, and I'd get a little more agitated with them. Come on, you're not trying. They say, just throw strikes. And I'd just start yelling all the stuff that parents yell, and all the other parents would be laughing, and the person I was doing it to would be laughing, and say, parents, the whole point of this is that it's not as easy as it may appear to be. None of your kids are out there trying to throw the ball into the dirt or over the backstop. It just happens. So give them a break, kind of, let them learn, give them the opportunity to get better, and just support them. And it was a pretty good lesson.
And think about that, Ken. We had Emma Lemley on this podcast who said she still throws balls to the backstop. So there's a professional. So lighten up and let the kids work through it. All right. So since we're getting specific, Ken, I'm going to add this one to my list, which I'm going to put a disclaimer, was not on the list to begin with. But now since you went there with the just throw strikes, I've got to add this one to it. Please stop screaming for everyone to throw the ball to the pitcher.
Yeah.
Drives me crazy. When the pitcher gets the ball, the play doesn't end. Okay. And on my daughter's team, coming from rec ball, that's all you would hear all summer. Get it in, throw it to the pitcher, throw it to the pitcher. And I'm like, oh no, please. And so first practice we had, I'm like, we are not throwing the ball to the pitcher. More times than not, you're going to run the ball into the pitcher. We're either going to throw it to a cut or to a base.
Right.
Not to the pitcher. I don't want a random outfielder's throw from the outfielder to the pitcher. I just don't. Throw it to a base or throw it to a person, but do not throw it to the pitcher because the pitcher shouldn't be there anyways, Ken. They should be backing up a base.
Mm-hmm.
So please stop telling kids, parents, coaches to throw the ball to the pitcher.
Yeah, I think that they think that that's, an automatic stop of play if they get the ball into the pitcher. And it's like, no, the play could continue. And, then the pitcher has to figure out what to do with it. As you want to make sure that everything is settled, then get the ball to the pitcher. At that point, it stops.
Correct.
So this is a funny one. I've got a story for this one too. This is actually fairly recent. I know. So I have this catching student. I do work with catchers now and then. I have a catching student, and she was telling me about this, and she was very confused by her team coach, who's a baseball guy. Okay, so we got one of these baseball guys used to 90-foot bases and, the way that baseball works. And so he kept telling her, even with runners on base, to just, when you get the ball, you receive the pitch, just throw it back to the pitcher right away. She said there would be runners off base, and she'd be kind of like looking at them or kind of running them back. And he'd just say, no, just throw it back to the pitcher. And she's like, I don't know, it shouldn't be doing that. And I said, well, yes, you're right. You shouldn't be doing that. But, he's a coach. Maybe he's going to learn by doing. So, next game, she throws the ball back to the pitcher. There was a kid on third. Of course, she delays steals, scores the run. And then she just told me she just kind of looked at the coach. And then from that point on, he didn't say anything more about, throwing it back to the pitchers.
Lesson learned.
Yeah. And unfortunately for her, he's got a lot of those ideas. So, something else has come up recently. And I told her, said, just like throwing the ball back to the pitcher. I said, this guy you can't argue with him. He knows it all. You got to do what he says. Oh, it was trying to do a pickoff play to first with a runner on third. Said, okay. Just if he wants you to do that, go ahead and do that. The run will score, and then he'll figure out that those kids, if you have 60-foot bases and they come off 20 feet, they're only 40 feet away. By the time that ball goes down there and makes the return trip, that runner is going to score.
Yep. All right. What's your next one?
All right. Oh, using exercise for punishment.
Oh, yes. Ooh, man, your list is so much better than mine.
Actually, Jay, 2 of your things were on my list. So that's why I made extra ones just in case.
Just in case.
Yeah. But, that's another one. And you see that all the time. And again, you see the dumbest stuff with it. So, making kids go out and run foul poles because, I've seen teams where the coach, for every run that we gave up, you have to run a pole. So if you gave up 7 runs, you got to run 7. If you gave up 12, you got to run 12. And boy, talk about putting negative thinking into the game and getting the kids to play scared. Besides the fact, runs are going to get scored, especially these days.
Yeah. Hey, Ken, let me ask you, I got to interject here real quick. So you watched a lot of college softball, right?
Mm-hmm.
So after their games, I guess all the college coaches have the kids on the lines and they're just running lines and foul poles. You see that?
Yeah, of course, all the time.
Listen, I've seen plenty of errors in my time. I've seen plenty of runs given up, sometimes more than I wish. But I can tell you this, even at the next practice, we're not making them run. No, we're getting after what we need to get after. So I had to interject because, I went and watched Illinois State and DePaul play a couple weeks ago, and I stuck around for even after the game to talk to their pitching coach at Illinois State, and I didn't see anybody doing foul poles or sprints because they gave up runs or lost the game.
Right.
Interesting. That's a very good one, Ken.
Well, thanks. And, I remember one of my pitchers who was pitching in college. It was a D3 school out in Iowa. And she said that after, it was after practice, but they had lost and their team had watched a lot of third strikes go by. So the coaches made, them run a poll for every third strike that they'd watched or every strikeout they had or something like that. And I said, boy, that seems like a giant waste of time. If your team is striking out a lot, I wouldn't be running. They don't need to run to go back to the dugout. I'd be working on hitting
or pitch recognition.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great one. I love that one, Ken. All right.
Yeah. I was just going to add one more thing too, is that, then not only is that bad, but, especially at the younger levels, if you're doing that kind of thing, now you've associated exercise and conditioning with negative stuff, with bad things. And that's just going to make your kids hate it all the more. Nobody likes to, especially the younger ages, nobody likes to just get out there and, and do conditioning. But if you make it a negative thing, they're really going to associate it with that and they're going to hate it.
And I mean, let's be honest, if you want them to run, then you should have been a cross country coach or a track coach, not a softball coach.
Right.
I get you want them to do running bases if you're going to do bases like base work and that stuff. But I couldn't agree with it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's sprints. I mean, especially, the distance running kind of stuff, those long things. What's the farthest you ever have to run, in softball? 200 feet from the fence or 220 if you've got a big field, 220 from there, but you're never going to run from the fence to home. So, that's kind of out. Mm-hmm. Or 240 feet if you hit a home run inside the park.
Yeah.
And how often does that happen? You really don't need that kind of conditioning for it.
Yep.
You need sprint, you need burst and recovery, and you can do all of that while you're working on other skills.
Yep. Okay, Ken, I'm gonna throw one out here now, and this is more geared towards maybe travel or high school or even college. Please do not put your schedule on the wall and go through your schedule and tell your team what games you're going to win and lose. Well, you're going to lose to this team. Believe me, Ken, you think that this is
really?
made up? Oh, buddy, this is I've heard from several people that a coach has put up this list of their schedule and said, well, if we keep playing the way we're playing, we're going to lose to them and we're going to lose to that. Like who does that? Mm-hmm. Well, you're already sending the message to your team that they're not good enough. That's not motivating anybody. So don't go through your schedule with your team and tell them who you're going to win and lose to. Right. And that's part of it. Nobody knows who's going to win or lose. The game has a funny way of working its way out. So, that's a real one. That's something that, is a real true thing that people actually do. It's kind of crazy.
Oh my gosh. I can't imagine that, Jay. It's just, why would you want to go out and do that? Now,
Yes.
I mean, I've had things before where you say, okay, our goal right now, sometimes you'll find yourself a little over your head in a tournament. And I remember, I think it was Kelly Anyway Perez was talking about this and said, sometimes in a game you have to change the goal, or, in the pregame you say, you haven't been playing very well, and say, all right, right now we've been shut out in the last 3 games. So our goal is to, we're still going to try to win, but our goal right now is to score a run. That's our, we need to take it like that. And if we score 1 run, maybe we'll score another run and we put a few runs on top of that and we can win. But if you set your goal to score 7 runs and you don't get started right away, then it's a problem. And, or it's like, I've heard you say before, and I've certainly heard this other places as well, is that you're not just trying to win the game, but you're trying to win the inning, trying to win the at bat. There are all kinds of things that you can be winning the game within the game.
Yes.
So to just give up right away before you even get a chance to play, why not just call in the forfeits on those games then? Why even bother playing?
Yep. All right, you're up. What's your next one?
All righty. My next one. Oh, this is kind of the corollary to the yelling, just throw strikes for the pitcher. And that's coaching hitting mechanics from the third base coach's box. So how many times have you been at a game and you've got a coach that's calling out detailed instructions? You need to do this and do this. Remember, don't do this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that kid's going to go in there totally confused. She's not going to be able to perform. If you want to say something, you can, if you know that there's like one key, you can remind her. And I wouldn't say, don't drop your back shoulder. I'd say, bring your back shoulder forward first. You can, there are things like that you can give them as a reminder. But if you're going to say, okay, now get yourself set in there, bend your knees, get your bat up here, point it this way, and then, get in here, then start, get your hips going, do this. That's not the time to be doing that. That's what practice is for.
Yeah. You're better off saying things like, hey, let's battle now, right? Hey, see the ball. Like, those are things that are not mechanical. They're literally, hey, see the ball. Hey, let's battle. Right?
Yeah.
Put your front foot here. Put your back, tilt your back. Nope. Got to get on top. Nope. Like, it's too much.
Yeah.
Right? Tell them to battle. Just battle. Keep your eyes on the ball. Things like that. Simple things. No mechanical adjustments. Yeah, I agree with you there, Ken. I agree with you.
Yeah. Although one of my favorite things I ever yelled from a third base coach's box, as far as a player goes, was we had a girl that was guest playing for us. She actually played for the team that was above us, the older team, but she was eligible to play at ours, but her dad coached the older team.
Yeah.
So she's playing with us. So I thought, man, this is going to be great. Leslie's going to have a great time. She is going to just, feel really good about herself. She's standing up there and she's taking strikes left and right. She had an Anderson Rocket Tech, which was the hot bat at the time.
Those were great.
Yeah. And I just, at one point I just got tired of watching her like that. And I said, hey, Leslie, those Rocket Techs work a lot better when you swing them.
True statement. Yeah. True statement.
But that, to me, that's the kind of thing that you can say, is that you just want to encourage the kid, or, hey, you got this. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay.
So, okay. What's your next one?
Another one. This one drives me crazy. Do not have the players make the starting lineup and what position they should play. Now, I'm talking at the collegiate level or even high school level, right? You should not be giving your team a piece of paper that says, who do you think should be starting and not starting?
Seriously? People do that? What are they, on drugs?
Ken, I'm telling you, man, you listen, at the highest level, they're doing that. Let me tell you.
Well, like I said, when we would do the, okay, you guys coach yourself game for fun, we'd let them do that. But other than that, I can't imagine. Of course, I'm a control freak as a coach anyway.
That's completely different. I'm talking about, I just like the chemistry and what you're looking for there is just going to cause and create drama amongst the team. And you are the coach, the head coach and the coaching staff. It is your responsibility to evaluate talent to who's supposed to be where, and so on and so forth. It is not the players to do that. And we know how these things work, especially in a high school setting. It's going to come down to, who's my friend. Right. And that's not what it's about. And then,
you're not trying to elect prom queen.
No. So yeah, that's a big no-no. And like I said, these aren't things I'm making up here, Ken. These are things that I've either actually witnessed or someone has told me is actually existing. So this is not some random conspiracy theory that I've made up that coaches are doing this. I'm sure that some people that are listening to this are probably going, yeah, I've probably, I did that once or twice. Right. And again, like you said, we're not judging you. We're just trying to help people. And you and I have made a lot of mistakes, tremendous amount of mistakes about this, but we're learning as we go still too. Yeah. So that's one for me, that please don't have your players make a list of who should start and who shouldn't start. It's not their job. It's your job.
Right. To me, that's inconceivable because I'm such a control freak anyway. I wouldn't give the lineup to the assistant coach unless there was some physical reason I couldn't do it. If we're going to go down, we're going to go down because I made a bad decision. I'm not going to throw that on anybody else. So the thought of that just really throws me off.
Yep. All right. So I'm just all about out here. You got any left there that you want to share?
Yes. Give me a second here. Oh, this is a good one. Playing time-wasting games at the end of a timed game.
Oh, yes.
Your
list is amazing. I'd hate to see your Christmas list. Man, oh, man.
I get it, the gamesmanship and, trying to stall it and all that, but it's really not within the spirit of the game. You're not teaching them how to play at a higher level. And, one of my assistant coach, Rich, had pointed that out to me once when I kind of did that. And, he made a very valid point. He said, the message you're sending to the kids, because we ended up losing it anyway. So the message you sent to the kids was, we can't win this game without doing things like this. Mm-hmm. It's like, you know what? You're right. He was a wise man. So, from that point on, I just let him play. I wouldn't go out there to talk to the pitcher if the pitcher didn't need to be spoken to. I wouldn't have somebody go up and tie their shoes. But the only thing I would do was I would tell them, if you get on base, we're not taking any chances. If we need to extend this game out a little bit more, I don't need outs. Outs are going to kill us. So, even if the ball gets away from the catcher a little bit, just stay there and don't take any chances. If the ball gets way away from the catcher and you could walk down there, then yeah, go ahead. But otherwise, yeah, I don't want you taking any chances, getting thrown out at second base. And now we have an extra out. We're going to have to play more. I want to finish this game right here.
Yeah. And Ken, that's why I love the LP for you games. And I love the PGF and Alliance games. It's 80 or 90 minutes and it's finished the inning. There's no time thing, right? It's basically in 90 minutes, you're going to play almost 7 innings, right? Mm-hmm. You may not, but it's still finished the inning. So there is no time thing where you're trying to do this. And it is, and for me as a college coach, I want that because I want to be able to see kids coming in and out of positions and so on and so forth, right? So if we're just worried about winning the game and beating that time so that we don't have to play an extra inning, that's an extra inning of eye candy time that you just took away from some kid to get recruited, right? I mean, honestly, like I see that kid make a diving catch up the middle in that inning that you almost didn't let happen, and that kid doesn't get recruited by me, right? Yeah. And people need to think about, and that's why I love, what the LP for you does and Alliance and PGF, even some of the Triple Crown, like you're playing the games, and that's and coaches want to see that. So I think you see that a lot more at the younger ages with some of the other sanctions. They time limit it. You're getting 65-minute games, which means you're playing 2.5 innings, and you're getting six games at 65 minutes. Yay. Right. Like, you never get a flow in any of that. So yeah, no, I agree with you there. I agree with you for sure. So
yeah, and plus the fact that, I hate timed games anyway. I mean, I get why it's done, although it's gotten to be pretty ridiculous by now. There used to be, if you set a 2-hour time limit on a game for 14 and under and above, I think that's a pretty reasonable time limit. You should be able to get 7 innings in that time. When you start going to 85 minutes or 65 minutes or something like that, you're not going to get a full game in. So And then these kids, high school coaches, college coaches wonder why their kids can't compete for 7 innings. Well, they never really had to. They knew, pitcher knew that she could get through 4, maybe 5 innings and she'd be done. So that's what she's oriented toward. 7 innings is a grind. That's a long time to be out there. Now the game's changing a little bit and they're starting to use more multiple pitchers, not just relying on one, not just expecting somebody to complete games all the time. But still, I think that, in fact, I had, when I did the coaches college thing at the Women's College World Series, when I had the chance to speak to our guest from a couple weeks ago, Carol Brueggemann, she was sitting in the stands there with us and all that. And I was asking her about it. And she said she felt the same way, is that these kids come in unprepared to compete at the collegiate level because they haven't really had, in high school, they did, but most of their time and most of their intense time is spent on travel ball. And they just get used to that short, 65, 75-minute game.
Yep. Couldn't agree with you more. Well, that's a pretty good list we got there, Ken. Do you have anything else you wanted to add?
I had something and I didn't write it down when I thought of it and I lost it. So
all right.
Can't think of anything else right now.
That's okay. If you remember it, I'm going to, I got a couple things I want to talk about here too. So I want to talk a little bit about coaching attire.
Okay.
Listen, this is an athletic sport. These kids are athletes. You are a coach. You are going to be required to move your body, hitting balls, catching balls, running after things, doing that. I don't know why. And it's just, maybe it's just me. And if I'm being ridiculous about this, Ken, please tell me, or if anybody else who's listening to this thinks that I'm being ridiculous about this, please send me a message and let me know.
Better put it in the comments.
or in the comments. So there should be no reason that anybody as a coach is wearing jeans when you are coaching. I'm sorry. It is the biggest for me. I get it. You're cold. It's cold out. Girls or anybody, players, if you're listening, wives, if you're listening, or if you're a coach, your husband, your wife is the coach and you're the husband listening, please buy them their yoga pants or please buy them sweatpants, which still would look tremendously better than you showing up coaching a team in your blue denim jeans that looks like you're dressed ready to go to the bar. Yeah. It's a thing for me, right? We want people to take you serious. You want college coaches to come talk to you. For the players that you have, I want to take you serious and know that you're not running a practice in jeans, right? Because what is that practice like then? Your mobility isn't very good. And I know they make jeans a lot stretchier nowadays. However, I still don't consider them to be athletic wear. So again, it's not hard to go buy yourself some Under Armour sweatpants, some Nike sweatpants that'll match your team colors. Shorts in the summer, fine. I'm not a big khaki short guy. I see those out there, but that's, to each their own on that. It's still shorts and it still looks professional. I'll take that. Yeah. And I said this to people. I watch basketball all the time. I don't see any basketball coaches wearing jeans. I'm watching the sidelines of football. I don't see any football coaches wearing jeans, right? Again, I don't see it, but I go to watch a tournament on a weekend and I see 3 or 4 coaches standing at third base giving signs with jeans on. What?
Yeah.
So I don't see any baseball teams with dads wearing jeans. And, like I talked to our baseball coach at our high school. He doesn't even let his baseball players wear shorts. They got to wear their actual pants to practice. That's how serious the baseball guys are. But yeah, we're going to show up and let our coaches, like even his coaching staff they still wear like the full uniform. Yeah. I'm like, bro, I'm not wearing a full uniform, but I'll gladly throw some sweatpants on and a shirt that represents my school or my team. So please, think about that for a minute, right? We're all cold, but prepare for that.
Yeah. Put some Under Armour underneath and you're all set. Some long johns, traditional ones. You can get the ones with or without the flap, but I think, I totally agree with you, Jay. For me, coaching, just going out and doing lessons, when I get ready to go out there, I always will change my pants and I will put them on. And in fact, these days, if I was coaching third base, I could see myself wearing cargo pants, khaki shorts, cargo pants.
Yeah.
I like having all the pockets and everything. But when
Understood.
I go out to do lessons in that, I've got a specific, few pairs of shorts that I use for that purpose alone. And it's a lot more comfortable.
And it's professional.
Yes.
It is professional. It's how you represent your organization and your team. It is professional. I couldn't even imagine if I was at first base at St. Xavier and I went out there in jeans.
Mm-hmm.
I already know my head coach would have a fit, right? Like it's just not happening. And I want to represent. So I wear my sweatpants that have St. Xavier on it, or I wear the ones that don't have anything and they're Under Armour ones, which are still part of our brand, right? Like I think, it's just taking the time, because the little things matter and how you look matters. You know what I mean? Like you're wearing your blue denim acid wash jeans. Next thing you know, they're going to be the ones that have all the holes in them, Ken, and stuff like that. We're wearing construction boots over there at third base. I mean, you're laughing, but that's what it looks like when you're wearing jeans over there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not hard to go buy yourself some $9 sweatpants at Walmart if you need to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, if you're wearing jeans out there, you look like some jabroni that they just pulled in out of the stands, to come in and coach. And that's not the impression you want to make, especially think in terms of retaining players. The parents are looking, they're judging everything. You want to look like you know what you're doing. You want to look like a coach. And like you say, Jay, the top coaches, the professional coaches, the college coaches, they're not wearing jeans out there. They're not looking like they just, rolled in the F-150 from the bar. They look like they're there to coach, and that helps the kids to take it more seriously as well.
Absolutely. So I saw some of that and I'm just like, I got to say something. Hopefully, again, our goal here is just to help people. So really, we're not yelling at you or anything like that or chastising. We're just saying, like, think about professional. This is still a professional thing here. And you want to represent yourself that way and your organization. So think about that. So awesome,
hey,
Ken.
I have one more coaching don't.
Go for it. I'm glad you remembered.
Yeah. Well, I don't think this is the one I was thinking of before, but this one just popped up in my mind. And I think this is probably the most important thing that you can remember. And it goes along with what we've been saying a lot here about how we've made all those same mistakes and we're not trying to judge anybody or anything. And that is, don't think you know everything. It's a very complex game. There are many, many layers to everything that we do in it. I know for me, I find that the more I study and the more I work at it and the more I learn, the less I know. It's
true.
It's like you're climbing mountains and, you finally got to the top of this mountain and then you look out and you see a bigger mountain off in the distance. There's always another mountain. There's always something else you can learn. If you are somebody who played baseball or softball back in the 90s, and you're still trying to apply the way you were taught to what's happening today, we've learned so much more. There's so much more going on. Get yourself to a class. Go to the NFCA coaching clinics. Go to your local high school association. Go somewhere where there's coaches that can share information. Find specific things. Motor preferences class for something specific on that. You can learn about movement. You can study. Jay and I both done corrective exercise. I never finished the class, but I was working on performance athletics. There's so much information out there that could be helpful to you. And if you're just doing the same old thing that you were taught and you're not trying to work at it and improve yourself, you're really cheating yourself and you're cheating your players.
Yeah. And again, I think a lot of that, Ken, and I think you'll attest to this, is trial and error. You have to be willing to try new things. Right? Because if you don't, I mean, trial and error. Like, so try it. If it doesn't work, you can always go back to what you were doing that did work for you. However, you might find a new way to do something that's going to connect and resonate with somebody else. And I think, or in a different way with different people. And I think that's the most important thing. There is no the cookie cutter stuff drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, like you said, but Ken, you and I, like, listen, I tell people all the time, they're like, well, when is she going to learn a screwball? And I'm like, never, not in this building. Because the first pitch, when I first started doing instruction that I taught to kids, was a screwball. So what did I teach? Step wide over to your left, throw your body to the right. And then all of a sudden those mechanics started leaking into their fastball. And I'm like, what's going on here? Why is she losing speed? Why is every ball going to the right? And I was like, oh, because I was teaching that pitch the way I thought it should be instead of the way it really should be. Right. And I think I had to go back and reevaluate myself as a coach as to what I taught. We say this all the time. If we were to go back 10 years ago from when we've been doing this to see what we coached, then we would laugh at ourselves, probably out of the room. Right. And I think that's like, surround yourself with people who are going to challenge you to think outside of the box while also you maintaining some of your core values and principles. Right. I think that's the biggest thing. So I couldn't agree with you more, Ken. That's a great one, man. And a great one to end on with that. So,
yeah, it's so important to continue to learn. I didn't teach a screwball for a very long time. I just didn't believe in the pitch. I've started bringing it back again, but it's not, when I say this, I'm saying it with air quotes, a screwball. I actually call it the faux screw, because it doesn't have all those crazy, arm things going on and all this crazy movement, trying to do things. I said, all this is we're going to stride a little bit left. You're going to bring your body around a little bit more behind you like you would on a rise ball. And you're just going to throw a fastball and let it off the side of your hand. Yep. So, I'm not trying to get any particular kind of spin. I just want a ball that's going to kind of move inward on the hitter to give them a different look. And that's, that's a 10-minute pitch. I can teach you that in 10 minutes.
Yep. Absolutely.
And that's all the work it's ever going to take. And, unfortunately, a lot of the coaches like it. So, they find that and they fall in love with that pitch. And it's like, no, that's the palate cleanser. That's the sherbet in between the main courses.
And I will say, Ken, I have gone back and taught some kids some screwballs. And again, that's learning and growing. Do I do it differently than I first started 10 years ago or longer than that? Yes, absolutely. And I'm more conscious of what it's supposed to be doing now, like you said. So I think that's a great thing. So awesome.
No, I think that, all that stuff is important. Again, just trying to learn, trying to get better, doing more for yourself, getting the feel of, what works, what doesn't, understanding that what works with one kid may not work with another kid. Yep. The whole trial and error thing, I guess, is the thing I would emphasize. I will tell that to kids all the time. Say, hey, let's try this. It's the old Edison thing. I didn't fail making a light bulb 10,000 times. I just learned 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb.
Exactly. Awesome, man. All right, you want to wrap it up? It was a good one today. I like this one. This was really good. We got a little fiery. Hopefully we helped some people out a little bit. This was good, man. This was a good one.
Yeah, and if anybody has any questions about this, if you want to know if you're doing something wrong, drop us a comment or send us a message or something like that. Jay and I can tell you from our personal experience. I think we've made many of the mistakes that are there to be made, and we'd be happy to share our experience with it.
Very true.
All right, so that's it for us this week. Thanks to all of you for listening and the kind words you've been sharing with us. If you like what you've been hearing, please remember to give us a like, leave a comment, and share this podcast on your social media channels. Make sure you never miss an episode by following us on your favorite podcast platform. We're closing in on 200 followers. We'd love to do that this week. If you're so inclined, you can also leave us a great review on Apple Podcasts to help more people find us. On behalf of the From the Coach's Mouth podcast, have a great rest of your week and weekend.